So good morning. So I will continue the chapter we began yesterday. So concerning this convergence to some viscosity solution of some integral differential equation. And so I just want to recall in some place the form of the mutation kernel to remind you. So remember that the mutation from I delta k to j delta k is of the form, it's just to understand the many things we will have. It was I delta k, delta k logarithm of k. I wrote it. I wrote it hk times a certain kernel, we say a Gaussian kernel of logarithm of k with or I could write, yes, I introduced hk, it's equal to this quantity, and so it's more or less hk a minus g. I say more or less because we are in the torus, so we have to make some be careful to what we write, but essentially it's okay. Okay. So you remember we introduced, so we have an nik of t, which is the size of the population, the subpopulation with trait I delta k, and we introduce the exponent beta ik of t, which is equal to the logarithm of nik t logarithm of k. We have seen that the good time scale is logarithm of k over logarithm of k. And we have also defined the linear interpolation beta tilde of tx between bi and bi plus 1. Okay? And so what we want to prove is that in a certain sense, beta tilde of t1 of tx, which is random, so it's a process with function values, functional values, will converge in some sense, in law and in probability to a deterministic, so that's as process on t, so a deterministic function beta of tx, which is a solution of dt beta is equal to b of x minus d of x plus p of x, the integral over of g of x exponential to the h derivative of beta time m of dh. I don't remember m of h dh. Okay. That was so I can give you today. So there are some techniques. The sense. So I said to you that it was this solution was understood. The solution is understood in the viscosity sense. So what does it mean? As I said yesterday, we have absolutely no information on the regularity of beta. And so we will approximate, in a certain sense, beta by smooth function, which satisfy not equality here, but inequalities. Okay? And so you are a viscosity solution if you are a viscosity subsolution and a viscosity supersolution. Okay? And so I give you what does it mean to be a viscosity subsolution. That means that for any point t bar, x bar, which belongs to 0 capital T times the torus, and for any phi, for any smooth function, at least C1, here we need only C1, but we can, without restriction, assume that it is C infinite, it's the same thing, C1, because you want to have derivative with first order in time and x, smooth function. such that beta minus phi attains its maximum, a strict global maximum at t bar x bar. So it's a local property. Then dt phi, so phi is regular, is less than dt phi in t bar x bar in this point is less than b of x bar minus d of x bar plus p of x bar integral of g of x exponential to the h dx phi of t bar x bar, which is well defined, m of the h dh. That's the definition. And the super solution, you have to change the maximum in minimum and to change the sense of the inequality. And if you have both properties, that is called the viscosity solution of the equation. Okay? Okay, so so the proof is technical enough, but I will give you an idea of how it works. So, so we have to prove so the tightness of these processes, beta tilde. I forgot to write the k, to mention the k here, and and then, of course, to characterize the limiting values as a solution in the sense of this equation. Yes. Sorry, I don't. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it's J of H. Yeah. It's the morning. I'm tired. Yes, yes. Thank you. I said that here in this I wrote H because we will see that we need some exponential moment, and so to fix the idea I take the Gaussian kernel. But okay, thank you. I'm sorry. So we need, so as I said, several things. So for the tightness, so there is so here it's not, it's also a tightness result in some specific infinite dimensional space. Since here the processors, they belong to the score space from 0t into the set of continuous function from t into r. Okay. And so there are some criteria for specific such processors. And so, for example, I think that the best criteria is a criterion by Jakubowski. Jakubowski in ATCX. Okay. And so there are two parts as usual in the criteria. So the first property is to prove that for epsilon positive, there exists C epsilon, a compact subset of the trajectory space. Such that for any k, the probability that beta tilde k, our process belongs to the set, so take values in C epsilon, so belongs to the score space from 0t into C epsilon, is less greater than 1 minus epsilon. Okay, that's the first part. And the second part is easier. It's just a projection property, which is to say that for any good test function f, which here will be for any f belonging to this space, C of t from the torus to R, then the process x, ft, fk, t, we define the process, the projection on f in this sense, the integral of f of x beta k, beta tilde k, tx dx, introduced in the torus. So these processes are tight, okay? xf, so for h fixed f, these processes are to be tight, uniformly tight, in law, the law. And so you see that for this, so we know the form of the compact subset of the continuous, the space of continuous function is given by Ascoli's theorem, and we know that it's related to so the function have to be equibounded and equicontinuous, okay? And so we have to prove for these processes some such sort of properties, okay? And so the aim to do that, so we will use the semi-martingale decomposition of the beta ik and then the beta tilde k, and we will control the martingale part. And as I said yesterday, we will use the maximum principle to control the variation part. So I will show you the simplest proofs concerning the boundedness to prove the equicontinuity. In fact, we prove a propagation of the Lipschitz properties over time. And so that's exactly the same idea, but it's a more technical proof, okay? So, so I write, so first, I can first write the semi-martingale decomposition. So remember, so we have, so I just erase things, but so we have beta ik is a logarithm of nik. We have the decomposition for nik, okay? And so when you have a jump of nik, for beta ik, the jump, so if nik comes to nik plus 1, for beta ik, you will have the one logarithm of k, and you will have the logarithm of nik plus 1 minus logarithm of nik. That means that's equal to logarithm. So I will give you the form 1 plus 1 over nik. Okay? So in the decomposition, you will have terms of this form, and that's also why we needed to control the size. You remember we introduced 2 times stopping time yesterday, meaning that first we have a Lipschitz property, and second, and the other one was to control the size of the population, subpopulation, meaning that they are all larger than k to the a. Okay, so we will work with this stopping time. Okay, so now we can write the semi-martingale decomposition of the beta ik. We have 3 terms, one concerning birth, the second one concerning death, and we have the mutation term, which is the hardest one. So we will have beta ik of t. So we will write mi kt plus ai kt, and we will put the initial condition on the finite variation part, meaning that the martingale is null at 0. ai kt is equal to beta ik of 0 plus integral, at t infimum theta k of L. Remember, we introduced this stopping time theta k of so for the moment, I just write the value. We will take the, so we at t logarithm of k, since beta ik is taken, remember the population, the subpopulation taken at the time t logarithm of k. So we have the birth rate is b of delta ik times the population, so the population I. So we have the clonal birth, nik k of s times b of I delta k logarithm, as we have 1 plus 1 over niks plus d, that's the death, I delta k times logarithms of 1 minus, because we kill one individual, and rik of s ds. That's the birth, the clonal birth, the death, and we have to add the mutation term, which will be, and then here we have to compute all mutation events, which will give you an individual with trait I. And so they arrive from different individuals with trait J, and we will change, here we will consider that I minus J is some L, and and we will sum over all L. So meaning that I'm sorry, yes. So if we want to obtain at the end some trait I, we have different I plus L individual traits. So individual with trait I plus L, which give by mutation individual with trait I. Okay. So to say that I will sum. So I have, I forgot the 1 over logarithm of k. I wrote it, but I forgot it. And so I have here also the 1 over logarithm of k. And I sum over all the possible trait L. I don't write the, the exact set here. It is written on the note, in the note. So you have hk, which is this quantity, p of so I plus L delta k. It's to see how it works. J of hk L, and we integrate. That will give us. Integral from 0 to t logarithm of k. So what we do, we have, so we come from one individual with trait I plus L, we will give one individual with trait I, okay, by mutation. And so here we have a logarithm as before, 1 plus 1 over niks. So, ds. That's the decomposition. So here it will be easy to control things since you have a quantity as x logarithm of 1 plus 1 over x. You can control it by a constant. If x is this quantity is small enough, which is the case because we know before our stopping time that this quantity is large, and identically for him. So we have to see what is this term, and essentially this term. So we have to see what is ni plus L of s, okay, over nik of s. And that helps to see that. And so because that's this remark will help a lot. So and of course s is a sort of, I will write t logarithm of k to to relate t to the value. That's the case. S is between 0 and t logarithm of k, so it has such form, and then we can rely it to the beta k. Okay, since beta k is a logarithm of this quantity over logarithm of k. And so that this quantity is exactly the exponential of the logarithm of k times beta I plus L k of t minus beta I k of t. And so this quantity will arrive in all the computation, and assuming that we are before the stopping time that we introduced yesterday we introduced the stopping time theta k L, and before the stopping time we assume that this quantity over delta k is less than the distance in the torus between I plus L delta k and I delta k. Okay, so that will be less than exponential to the logarithm of k, a certain L, and if t is less than theta kl, we will have logarithm of k, L, and the distance, which is essentially, which is the distance of the torus, is less than the absolute value. So we will have L and delta k, L minus S, so L, okay. And so if we assume that this quantity is essentially this one, and so we have to sum this, we sum over all L, okay? And so what you will have the sum over L of HK, which tends to 0 with our assumption, times P of I plus L delta K, times we will have G of HKL, and essentially something which is of this form. And here we have delta K, HK, sorry, L, capital L. And so what you can prove that same with argument as before, it's essentially a Riemann argument, is that this quantity is bounded by, so it's a quantity which only depends on, I'm sorry, I forgot this one. We have to bound by P bar. We forget this one. And if we forget this quantity, this P, we have assumed that it was bounded. Yes?
There's also a 1 over log k in front?
Yes, the 1 over log k, I'll keep it since I have one here, okay? Just to see what is the sum. And here you see that in the limit, when k tends to infinity, it converges to P bar. And here you have the integral of g of y exponential to the h y dy. And that's why we assume that we have exponential moment for the kernel J, and this will be some quantity that I will call G bar of L. I called it G bar of L in the note, okay? And so we think with this assumption, it seems to be reasonable to get the controls, okay? So that's one idea. So that I take all my blackboard. Oh. Okay. So now we will control, as I said, the martingale parts. So I only write, yes, I have a possibility until here. So we can also write MIK, the quadratic variation, predictable quadratic variation of MIK. And essentially, it has a similar form as here, except that here you have to put logarithm of k square And so that's the jump rate. And here you have to put the increment is a logarithm of 1 plus 1 over ni, and you have to put a square. And you remember, when we consider such sort of processes, the quadratic variation part, you have to add the growth rate times the square of the jump. That's a way to, of course, you can compute, but it's the idea. And so here you have 1 over logarithm of square, logarithm k square times the integral from 0 to t logarithm of k of ni ks, bi delta k times logarithm of k, logarithm square of 1 plus 1 over ni ks, plus d of y delta k logarithm square of 1 minus 1 over ni ks ds plus this part, which is, so you have to write 1, so 1 over logarithm square k. That's easy. Have you seen? When I write, the painting disappears. The sum is the same similar sum. And here you have to take integral from 0 to logarithm of t log k of the same expression, ni plus l s logarithm k square 1 plus 1 over ni s. Yes. Okay. And so, of course, here here you could say in the finite variation part process that this is essentially it's a constant, but of course for the variation part you have ni over ni square. That's why we need to control the population size. Okay. Well, it's just computation. And so, if we consider mi, mk, I at t less than now, we consider things before our stopping time, theta kl, theta k l. So it will be less than. So we will. So b and d are bounded by b bar and d bar over logarithm square k, so times integral of t. So this c comes from the fact that we can write it where? I can say that x logarithm of 1 plus or minus 1 over x is less than c, okay, for x large enough. And here we have t logarithm of k ds over niks. We have this quantity, so that's easy to control. Sorry, infimum theta kl logarithm of k plus p bar over logarithm of 0 from t theta kl logarithm of k. And here we will have the same way the sum over L of what is hk g of hkl times ni plus l k of s over nik square of s. Okay. Yes. And so before our stopping time, now we can say that niks is greater than k to the x. And so we will have C B bar plus D bar over, over logarithm square K, but here we will, we have this quantity which is less than 1 over K to the A. And we have one logarithm of K, which is, which cancel 1 here, so we have this quantity. T plus, and here you see why I introduce this computation here, is that here we will have P bar over logarithm square K a priori, times here we use 1 NIK, we will, and this sum will give us G bar of L, this quantity, because we are before the stopping time theta KL, so we know we have this Lipschitz property, and one have another NIK, so we have a K to the A here, and the time logarithm of K cancel 1. Okay? So now we want to obtain some result uniform on I, because we consider this linear interpolation. And in fact, that's a part of the problem. So we have the supremum over T less than capital T infimum of theta KL, supremum over I between, so we have, remember, and I belongs to, it's between 0 and 1 over delta K minus 1. So you have 1 over delta K, I, different I, okay? I write it here. And delta K tends to 0. So the supremum of I of MIK T larger than A. So that will be less. So that's the upper bound, which is bad. We are only able to upper bound it by the sum over I of this probability. And here, so either you use the Martingale maximal lemma or Doob. We can use Doob here. So we have 1 over a square, the sum of y is equal to 1 over 0, 1 over delta K minus 1. And so that is less than the expectation of the supremum T infimum of theta KL of MIK T square. And by Doob, we know to a constant, up to a constant, this is less than the expectation of MIK at time capital T infimum theta KL. And so we have such sort of, oh, I forgot the T here, estimation. So, so you see that you have exactly the same form here. And so that is less than some constant. I write C is a constant we can change from line to line. G bar L, we have to keep in mind the independence in L. because for the moment S is just chosen a priori, but we have to prove that such L exists, will be relevant. Capital T over, so logarithm of k to the a. Okay, and so we have to add, if we have a sum, finally, we have one, so we have C over A square, G bar L, T over delta K, logarithm of K to the A. And remember that we took some assumption on this delta K with respect to A, so A, so we have to define theta KL, we have two properties, and one depends on A1, which is to control the population size, and the other one at time 0. The other one is for the Lipschitz property, but we have that A is between A2 and A1. And so we have some property relying delta K and K to the A2. Okay, that's the first step. And so we have also need, as we have seen, we also need to control the increments of the martingale part. And we can remark that if we write mjk minus mik, it's the sum over I between 0 and 1 delta k minus 1. I don't write the times of m I plus 1 minus mi. And so you see that this quantity is less than 1 over delta k, the supremum over I of mi plus 1 minus mi. So the good things to control, the good increment is not mi plus 1 minus mi, but it's this increment over delta k. And we already seen such increments appearing in the form of the linear interpolation of the beta I to define beta tilde. And so we have to control this quantity with delta k tends to 0. And so, of course, we have to play with these, all the scales. And so I call that delta k mi, okay? That's a definition, a notation. And so I want to control the supremum for t less than t. Say S, I don't remember if I need this dependency in time. Oh, yes, we can take t less than t theta kl of delta, so we can mi ks greater than epsilon. So that will be less. So by the submartingale, so the absolute value of this increment is the submartingale. Maximal lemma. We know that we can erase the supremum. That's a main property for martingales. It's less than 1 over epsilon, the expectation of delta k mik at times t theta kl. Okay, so we can say that it's less than the expected z square 1/2. And if we compute the quadratic variation of the increment, delta k mik, with this definition, so what do we have at time t? We have 1 over delta k square, which is the increment square, times mi plus 1k. So the quadratic variations, so we can write at least that it's less. We write, we use x minus y square less than 2 times x square plus y square plus mik t, okay? So that's, we have 2. That's trivial. And so we have a control. If we use the control we had on this quantity, I don't remember exactly, but yes, we have 2 times 2k, 4 over delta k square, times we had some constant g bar L times t over logarithm of k to the a. Okay? So here we have it's less than 1 over epsilon, a certain constant, so the square. So another constant, say, I say that the constant can change, square root of g bar L t, capital T, over, so we have square root of delta k square, k to the a, logarithm of k. So that's very simple computation. But it allows to understand why we have chosen such property between delta k and k to some power. And so now we have to choose a good epsilon. And so we choose so 1 over delta k, so I give one which works, k to the a logarithm of k minus 1/2, 4. And so exercise with the assumption on delta k, you have to prove that epsilon k tends to 0 when k tends to infinity. And we will introduce the space which will play a main role because we will work almost surely after that. So we introduce the space omega k of L, which is the space where the supremum over I, the supremum for t less than capital T theta k L, so it's dependent on L by the stopping time, of this increment delta k mi k t in absolute values is less than epsilon k. Okay. And so we can prove that the properties, the probabilities that the complementary of omega k L bar or C, which is English notation for the complementary. Never heard. Okay, is less than. So we of course we apply what we have computed here. And it's C over, so we have, now we have a supremum over I. So as earlier, we have to sum over I, and that gives you an additional 1 over delta k, okay? And so you have C over delta k epsilon k times, so the square root of this quantity, that means delta k square root of k to logarithm of k. And here we have I keep this information because remember I mentioned you yesterday that we have to prove that for any t, there exists some L which will depend on t, but only on t, such that the probability that theta k L is greater than t tends to 1 when k tends to infinity. But so we have to keep this information on L. Okay, and so with our assumption here, that gives you what you wish. So I let you finish, but that with this epsilon k and the assumption we have made on delta k, for sorry, that tends to 0 when k tends to infinity. And so to finish, so that gives you the, so we know that if we work on this process, so we have the control of the increment of the martingale part, okay? And now, so to control the variation part, we will work omega by omega with omega in this space, okay? So as I said, we have to prove some boundedness property and equicontinuity property. So I will only prove how it works on the, to prove that our, so now we consider process IKT, and we work almost omega by omega, with omega belonging to this space, omega k L. Okay. But we have an information until t infimum theta k L. That's why we will need to know that for some L and k large enough, this quantity will be capital T. That's a lemma which demands the most harder proof. The harder proof. So, okay. And so to what we prove is that so we fix T, and so there exists a constant C1 such that for k large enough and for I belonging to our space 0, 1 over delta k minus 1, then omega by omega, so ik of t less than theta kl is less than the maximum over I of beta I k, sorry, I put j, beta ij of 0 plus C1t. And that is true on omega k. That means that omega by omega, you have this, so omega is here and here, okay? But of course, in the theorem, we assume that the beta tilde k tends to beta 0, and so we have a control of this by, for k large enough, by the infinite, so by beta 0, so it's at time 0, it's a function of x, so it's, since here we have, right, we have, in the theorem, we have the assumption that beta tilde k0 of tx tends to, of x, tends to a function beta 0x. And so we can prove that that is less than the beta 0s plus a certain constant for k large enough. So this term will be easy to control because of the assumption we made on the theorem. Okay? And so that will give us the boundedness of A, and then with what we have done on M on the total process beta ik. Okay? So to prove that, so I think that the proof is interesting because it uses maximum principle. So, so here we write, so we will only prove the upper bound, and the lower bound is proved in the same way. Okay? And so we, because it's not so easy, we write aik of t less than theta k of L. Perhaps I forgot the L. Remember, so just for the proof, theta k is equal to theta k of L, because it takes time to write, minus aik of S infimum theta k and for 2 times s and t less than capital T. And so it's easy to prove, as we have already done that several times. So remember, this process in the integral, we had nik times logarithms of 1 plus 1 over nik. And I told you that it disappeared, but that x logarithm of 1 plus 1 over x is less than a constant. And it's the same thing if you have 1 minus 1 over x. So here you have, the first part is easy to control. You have c times b bar plus d bar. And you have 1 over logarithm of k, but you integrate between 0 and t logarithm of k. So this logarithm of k disappears, and you have t minus s. Okay? So that's the first part of so that's easy. And the second part, so I write it, you have 1 over logarithm of k, the sum over L of, so perhaps I can immediately write p bar. And so as before, here as previously, we have hk, j of hkl times integral from 0 to t so s infimum theta k times logarithm of k to t infimum theta k logarithm of k of n I plus L of s logarithm of. And so here we also have some inequality for the logarithm of y logarithm of 1 plus 1 over x, which will be less than y over x, essentially, up to a constant. So there is a constant here. And so here we can consider that it is this quantity. Okay? And that's what we have to study more carefully. And so I continue. It's less than c b bar plus d bar t minus s. Plus, so I have this expression. I don't write it. And here we have that I write it with respect to beta I. So S logarithm T in theta K, logarithm of K. And remember, we wrote it in function of beta ik as the exponential to logarithm of k times beta I plus lk of s minus of u. Sorry, I have to write u here because I am between s and t. U beta I k of u du. And now we know we have the semi-martingale decomposition of this difference. And we know that we have a control on the martingale part. Because we are working, here omega belongs to omega kl. Okay? So we will use that. So remember, so that what we have controlled is this increment by I give you the information that if you have the control of these increments uniformly in I, you also have the control of any difference mik minus mik, okay? mjk minus mik. So you know that the martingale part of this expression is controlled by epsilon k. Okay? And so this quantity, you upper bound it by something that's little, so you have the integral, so I don't write the times, but exponential of logarithm of k times epsilon k plus I plus L k of u minus ai k of u. There are two, okay, d, okay? And so now you are saved, so we can write things more properly. But you see, so on this form you cannot conclude, and so now it's just tricky to do what. So you have one term which is essentially C B bar plus D bar T minus S, and this term we can observe that you have the K to the epsilon K over there is 1 over logarithm of K here times something which is controlled essentially by Riemann sums. And so this quantity for K large enough will be less than P bar. And so to apply the maximum principle, you have to change a little your quantity by AAK of T, and you will minus 2C B bar, so that's the constants which appear here. That's the same constant, B bar plus D bar T minus 2P bar T, okay? And what you can prove, so yes, what I could say is that first you divide by T minus S, and you make S tend to 0. That will give you an expression, I can write it, but it's long to write anything. But and you can do the same thing on so I will write it on A K tilde. So you will have that by doing that, dividing by T minus S, and so I write the expression for A tilde IK using this. And then I divide by T minus S, and I make S tend to 0. So you will have d tilde T over dt is less than. So what do you have? So you will have, so here since you have a C here and minus 2C, you will have a strict inequality, which plays the main role, okay, of your sum P bar over logarithm of K times exponential to epsilon K logarithm of K. So I could write K to the epsilon. It's equal. The sum, so what is remaining over L of HK, G of HKL, exponential to K. So the difference between A tilde I plus L minus AI or without tilde is the same because the other term disappear. So you have what you want here, A tilde I plus LK minus I tilde RK. I'm sorry, that's not from, so here you have, and it's in T. Okay, and minus 2P bar. So the minus 2C bar, so it's in this strict inequality, and it remains this minus 2P bar. Okay. Okay, and that is almost surely for omega. So it's omega by omega for omega in omega k. And we use it because we have this quantity, this control epsilon k. Okay. And now we apply some maximum principle, a maximum principle argument that we will introduce. Omega by omega for omega in omega k of L. So we fix omega in omega k of L. So it's and we introduce Ik of omega tk of omega, which is the argmax over I belonging to 0, 1 over delta k minus 1, and T belonging to 0 T k of L. So it depends on L of I tilde k of T omega. I write, I will not continue to keep the notation omega, but it's just to fix ID that it depends on omega. And what we do here is what we can prove is that Tk of omega is equal to 0. And indeed, if tk is positive, then you consider the equation. So remember that ik, at ik, you have the maximum of the A tilde. And so this quantity will be, in tk ik, this quantity will be negative. And so the exponential is less than 1. Okay? And so you can prove that all this quantity, when k is large enough, will be less than p bar. And since you have minus 2 p bar, you will have something which is negative, strictly negative, I insist. But so you obtain that the derivative is negative, but you are at ik where you obtain the maximum. And so you have a contradiction, okay? The right-hand side term is negative. The left-hand side term is negative, and you have a contradiction. And so it's finished. The proof is finished. Before that, since tk is equal to 0, you can write that ikt, which is equal to ik tilde t plus 2c b bar plus d bar t. So you have the linear part here, 2p bar t. And here it's less than. So here you have the initial value of the max over all j of I tilde j k of 0 plus c1t. And this is also the max over g over j of beta jk of 0. So you see that the blackboard is a little tedious, but it's just to see once how it works, because I think it's not so usual for in probability to use search argument.
Yeah, so it's surprising that you can put any linear constant.
Which?
It's rather not very elaborated down here. So you really need to. Okay, my question is that you really need to.
Yes, except you need that.
Linear part.
Sorry.
You subtract this linear part to show that actually your growth of exponent is at most linear. Is that what you're?
No, it's just to be sure that you are negative.
Yes. So
yeah, but
so
that's
your AI is at most linear. Is it? Your AI of.
No. That's the difference between AI tilde and AI, which is linear, but not AI. No, not at all.
Is it clear a priori that A tilde is actually C1 and not just Lipschitz in T? Because otherwise it's not true that the maximum satisfies ddt equals 0.
Sorry?
Is it true a priori that A tilde I as a function of T is C1 as opposed to just Lipschitz? Because if it's just Lipschitz, it's not true that the maximum satisfies ddt equals 0.
I think it works also.
Did you prove it, or is that something that is checked separately in the proof? Or maybe it's obvious. I just it's hard for me to tell from all the formulas.
No, but no, you're right.
Like the maximum principle doesn't work for Lipschitz functions.
Well, it's a good question. So I'm sure that I have not so, but.
But you have an assumption saying that the AIs are nearly the Lipschitz.
Otherwise, you can just take a function that looks like this. It has a maximum and the derivative.
Yeah. I have to think about that.
It's possible that it's obvious from your assumption.
Yes, but I don't remember. I don't. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, it's continuous but derivative. So I'm sorry, but I forgot the argument here. be sure that the derivative exists. I forgot the arguments. I have to go to. I'm sorry. Okay, I think that it's only proof I will give you. I hope that it is true because it's the base. But yes, because no, I have to. So I let you read the end of the proof, and but essentially we made the main. I think that I will finish here this part because the time is going fast. And so, except if we have questions on this part, because we will change, completely change of point of view. Except the question of Ramon, I will answer tomorrow. Okay. So to prove the increment, it's a similar argument, but to prove the control of the Lipschitzianity, and also to identify the limit, but it's technical. It's not so difficult, but it's very tedious to write things carefully. Okay, so 9, I would like to totally to change. We consider another chapter, and so where we will add in the model. So until now, we consider the simplest model with birth, death, and mutation. And as I said, I was interested in microorganisms, and in particular on bacteria. And for bacteria, there is another very important behavior which will had some other jumps in the model, and which is based on horizontal gene transfer. And so before to do mathematics on this, and that will make some recreation. And so the first horizontal transfer is the simplest one. It means you have some cell which is destroyed for some, and so the membrane is cut, and then you have a lot of gene filaments which are in the medium, and they can enter directly the cells. So that's called transformation, and it can happen. So there are people working on such sort of where is the pointer? Transfer. And there is a second one we studied with Régis Ferrière, which is very important, for example, in ocean, which is called the transduction, when the genes are carried by some viruses. So you have viruses which go into the cell, and for some reason they go, for example, they go on the chromosome, and they cut some part, and so they take a part of the chromosome of the cell, and so they develop, the viruses develop in the cell. So you have a population of viruses in the cells which go larger and larger, and the cell explodes, and you see the explosion. And so when the cell explodes, you have a lot of viruses in the medium carrying a part of the genome of the cell, and then they go in another bacteria, and they put the part of the genome, the chromosome of the first bacteria, in the second bacteria. You understand what I mean? And so that plays really a main role in for some. No, it does not work at all. What happened?
Trying to restart it.
Huh?
Just trying to restart it.
So if not, I will explain on the on the blackboard. It's but I have very real pictures. That was interesting for that. But so that was the second way to exchange information. So by some phages or viruses. So there, and it seems that it plays a main role for explaining the. You know, there is a paradox which is. That in ocean you have a huge diversity, which is now observed directly. I don't know if you know the expedition called Tara, T-A-R-A, which is a boat. Tara is a boat which go all around the world and which take a lot of water samples, and they sequence. They observe all the genes they can find, so it's a huge experiment data in this water taken in different parts of the oceans, depending on the deeps, depending on the, a lot of information, either on the poles, but also now they were near the coast of Chile. 2 months ago, I think they are now in Pacific. They were first in the Atlantic. So they have a lot of information confirming that there is a huge diversity in ocean. And it's a paradox because usually biology thinks that when you have one resources, you have essentially one type of species. And in ocean, you have essentially 8 main resources. Phosphor, I don't remember which ones, but they are not able to explain this diversity. And so that's called the paradox of the plankton, because I speak essentially of diversity of plankton, which are small cells. And so this transduction couldn't explain this diversity. And the first, I have it, the first way to exchange information, genetic information, is called conjugation, and that's the one which we are working, which is based on what is called the plasmid. And so in the bacteria, you have the chromosome, but you have also more or less some very small circular DNA filaments, and which has so on this picture you have only one, but if you have one type of plasmid, you have immediately a certain number of copies of the plasmid. And so you have some plasmid with 20 copies, some plasmid with 200 copies. And so, of course, it's more or less heavy depending on the number of copies you have immediately for this plasmid. And these plasmids are, the bacteria can exchange these plasmids. And that's funny because they develop some sort of arm called lipus when they meet another bacteria. So it's really a contact, an interaction by contact. And so you have this lipus, and by some chemical exchange, for example, the bacteria knows if this one has no plasmid inside of this type of plasmid. And so here you have one of the 2 filaments which is cut and which go until to the lipus, to the other one, and immediately it recreates by replication the second filament of the same type. So you have really this exchange. And I found a beautiful picture of this lipus. So here you have this transfer between plasmid. You cannot see, but that's a fantastic photo I find of this. And so here I also find perhaps you see that, but here you have a picture taken with an electron microscope. So here you see you have all this chromosome, which is the big part of the cells. But here, so you cannot see nothing, but you have a small plasmid here, which is this few, just this small part. And here again, you have another one. And the chromosome is very huge. And so You see here for the Escherichia coli, the chromosome is 3,000 kilo per basis pair, and for the plasmid is 1 to 200. So it's really small with respect to the size of the chromosome. So why do we are interested in plasmid? There are a lot of ways. So the first one is that very often the plasmid are carrying the genes coding for antibiotic resistances. And that's, in fact, they are really, this plasmid transfer is considered as the primary reason for bacterial antibiotic resistance. So it's really a main point. You know that it begins to be a very, I don't find my term. So, the antibiotic resistances become to be larger and larger, and in some hospitals they are unable to control these resistances. And certainly it will be one of the big problems of the next years to control it. And the other reason, but it is related, is that now biologists are able to put on certain plasmid a very small, it's 9 base pair of DNA called CRISPR-Cas9, and it's like, that is a technical device, but this small DNA filament is able to cut plasmid. And so that's a proposition that was the biologists with whom we were working and discussing. They are imagined to create new antibiotics with this artificial plasmid, which could go in cells carrying either antibiotic resistances or genes pathogens or pathogens, and cut this part to kill the bacteria carrying these bad genes. Okay, so there is, and they are able to control the transfer rate. And so the questions they had in mind is how. What is the transfer rate I have to put to be sure to kill my population, okay? And so there is this transfer of plasmid also playing a main role in degradation of compounds, so it can also be interesting for environmental questions. Okay. So, and the last slide I wanted to show that so experimental data, so that's given by Raúl Fernández Lopez and Myriam El-Karoui, a biologist with whom I am working. So they observe the population size dynamics for a certain plasmid, which which is coding for resistant to a certain antibiotic, and they prove that without such plasmid, the cell develops and divides every. So it's for Escherichia coli. As I said, it's divided every 20 minutes. But if the cell carries the plasmid is costly because I will say one plasmid, but you have a certain number of copies of the plasmid. I don't know for this specific plasmid, but it divides every 22 minutes in mean. So of course it's not so different, but it creates a difference if you have a huge amount of bacteria. And so it's costly to carry the plasmid. And the main question of biologists is, so we have this cell which are, since they divide in a slower way, they are less adapted than the other one with the plasmid. But nevertheless, over time and over years, you keep this resistance to antibiotics. So why do you keep it? And it was a question to explain why we keep this plasmid, and we will see that it is really related to the transfer. Okay. Okay. So I hope to continue, but finally times go fast. I am almost finished. So perhaps we can we have 5 minutes now. we can just say a few words on the way we can model things. So I will not write all the model because we already describe the model, but we will add an additional jump events. Which describes so the way from an individual, with trait X. So all the framework is similar as the one we introduced at the previous talks with trait X, which will be the donor. Here we have an asymmetry in the sense the plasmid is transferred from one bacteria to another one, in one sense. And so it's a donor because I describe this conjugation phenomenon. Will transfers its traits. So of course the trait is a quantitative trait related to the number of plasmid or to the effect of the plasmid on the phenotypes and something. To its trait to one individual with trait Y, which is a recipient. And the conjugation means that for XY, you will become XX. So that's the way we have to model. We can criticize this. That's why here again, it's the first model studying such event. And so we do that at rate. So that was a question to imagine which sort of rate we could take. So here to simplify, I take one way. So it's a function tau of xy over the total size. So if the population size, it smells, nu is the population process. Here we take, so we have k, our scaling parameter. We are in the framework we developed, but here we will have k to the nu times 1. That means that here we have the total number of individuals. So this rate is a frequency-dependent rate. So we have a contact here. So we can choose different way for this rate. Either we could choose, for example, in epidemiology, you very often see a rate which are density-dependent. You have just, it could be multiply just this tau of xy. Here, since we have a lot of bacteria, it's so. But we can take different rates. Experimentally, they prove that if the population is small, you are more density dependent. If the population is large, you are frequency dependent, and between them, it's a sort of. So we don't know. We have to. Okay. So here for the talk, I will take this. And so what does it? So that means that. So it remains only 1 minute. So I will just. Write what it gives. So you can write the generator. You have just to add. So you see that by this you will change for one individual with trait Y, it will be changed in one individual with trait X. So here that does not change the total mass of the process. It's just an exchange of information between both alive particles. And so I just write this quantity to finish today, which will be f of x nu 0k of dx plus, so you have a martingale part, plus, and I write to understand what will happen for large population, I write, so we have, so here, yes, to change, to have another point of view, I decided to make a slight difference with respect to we introduced earlier, which is the other point of view we can have between birth and mutation. I will take, so the clonal birth rate would be P of X 1 minus PK. And so that's the clonal birth rate. And I will take B of X pk. That was a question somebody asked us, asked me, which is a mutation rate. In the first talks, I choose the B of X and P of X, but you have in many papers you have this point of view to say there is a division rate or a birth rate. Here it's more a division, and with some probability you have a clonal reproduction. That means the offspring inherits of the trait of the host sensor, or you have a mutation. And in this division part, when you have a mutation, if you have a division between two bacteria, when you divide, the mutation arrives only on one of the daughters. Okay? So that means that here we know what we have, 1 minus pk b of x minus d of x minus c nu ks of x times f of x. So I have, I forgot to write 0 to t, 0 to k, f of x, plus the mutation part. So we know that now. Integral of f of z, m of x, z, dz. Plus, so I write the transfer part, which will be 1 tau of xy over nu k. So that gives us another nonlinearity. Nu ks1 and times f of x minus f of y nu k s of dy. So the 1 over k here will give you a nu k. If not, you will have the total number of individuals with rate y and integrated with respect to nu k s of dx. Okay. And this term, you can also write it, and I am finished, I'm sorry. Tau integral from tau of, so you have two integrals with respect to nu k of dy, nu k of dx. And so you can write it, integral from 0 to x over nu k s1 times f of x nu k, and with the two measures, nu k s of dy, nu k s of dx ds, okay? And so in this quantity, we will introduce this, that I write alpha of yx, which is the transfer flux between from in one sense and in another sense. So of course, if tau is symmetric, this transfer term disappears, but it's not the case. In fact, it is always dissymmetric, because and essentially for costly plasmid, you will transfer from bacteria carrying the plasmid until bacteria which carry less plasmid or not this specific plasmid. So I'm finished here, but like that we will have the good framework for tomorrow.